Today I'm going to talk about this book called The Sense of Style, written by Steven Pinker. It promises to teach you a lot of interesting lessons in your writing journey, especially if you're writing for modern day readers, which will inevitably be the case. And Steven Pinker does a wonderful job. He ventures out in the realm of literature and finds some real gems from all corners of literature. Whether it's a scientist or a poet or a travel writer or simply a novelist, he captures the core ideas, the core styles, the patterns, the methods, the techniques, the way they use words and the way they structure their sentences and paragraphs. He talks about all these things, and through multiple examples, he gives us a wonderful guide so that we can write effectively in this day and age. So I'm going to read some excerpts from the first chapter itself, which is on good writing, and he talks about what really good writing is all about. How can we articulate it? Because most of the time we say the good writing is something that feels good. We can't really articulate what's the reason, but he gets into the reason and gives us plenty of reasons along with examples, and that's what I'm going to tell here, narrate here, those certain examples and what are the learnings we can draw from those examples. So the first example that he gives is from Richard Dawkins' writings, and these are the few sentences that he quotes from Richard Dawkins' writings. We are going to die, and that makes us the lucky ones. Most people are never going to die because they are never going to be born. The potential people who could have been here in my place, but who will in fact never see the light of day, outnumber the sand grains of Arabia. Certainly, those unborn ghosts include greater poets than Keats, scientists greater than Newton. We know this because the set of possible people allowed by our DNA so massively exceeds the set of actual people. In the teeth of these stupefying odds, it is you and I in our ordinariness that are here. So, there are quite a few things that you can notice here, and Steven Pinker points them out. For example, that in these sentences, Richard Dawkins starts powerfully, and you have to have a strong start. You can't start with a cliche or some kind of banality. You have to have a very strong beginning. And that's the lesson, a very crucial lesson, in fact, that we can draw from this example. There are many more examples how he has picked certain words over others, how he has created certain sentences. But I think the most important part is about the beginning and the drama of it. Eventually he's going to talk about science and scientific phenomenon, but he does that with a great deal of drama, and that adds so much value to your writing. Then he quotes another passage from Rebecca Neuberger Goldstein, and this is how the passage goes. What is it that makes a person the very person that she is, herself alone and not another, an integrity of identity that persists over time, undergoing changes and yet still continuing to be, until she does not continue any longer, at least not unproblematically. I stare at the picture of a small child at a summer's picnic, clutching her big sister's hand with one tiny hand, while in the other she has a precarious hold on a big slice of watermelon that she appears to be struggling to have intersect with the small O of her mouth. That child is me. But why is she me? I have no memory at all of that summer's day, no privileged knowledge of whether that child succeeded in getting the watermelon into her mouth. It's true that a smooth series of contiguous physical events can be traced from her body to mine, so that we would want to say that her body is mine. And perhaps bodily identity is all that our personal identity consists in. But bodily persistence over time, too, presents philosophical dilemmas. The series of contiguous physical events has rendered the child's body so different from the one I glance down at this moment. The very atoms that composed her body no longer compose mine. And if our bodies are dissimilar, our points of view are even more so. Mine would be as inaccessible to her. Just let her try to figure out ethics, as hers is now to me. Her thought, the thought processes, pre-linguistic, would largely elude me. Yet she is me, that tiny determined thing in the frilly white pinafore. She is me. She has continued to exist, survived her childhood illnesses, the near drowning in a rip current on Rockaway Beach at the age of 12, other dramas. So that's the passage. And at this point, Steven Pinker compares these two writings, and he says how Dawkins' style is more confrontational, while Rebecca's approach is a bit different. Her writing is more personal, more reflective. And that's something that advice I find very valuable. That you can have completely different styles. You're telling pretty much a similar story of life and death. But you have to identify how you're going to narrate yourself, how you're going to present your ideas, how you're going to tell a story. And you will have to find your style that suits you best and explore it, nourish it. And this is just one of the lessons that you're going to learn from the book. And one of the primary challenges as a writer that you'll find is about developing your style, identifying yourself. Where do you stand as a writer? What do you have to offer to this world? Where is that voice? What is that voice? And I'm quite sure that it'll help you if you're trying to write, if you are trying to explore your writing. This will give a wonderful opportunity for you to learn a sense of style. This is not a typical style guide. A book such as The Elements of Style has been popular for nearly a century, and that talks primarily about the grammar, the structure of language, and how you should technically use it. But writing is much more than that. And writing in today's world is quite different from earlier times. We have to use technology. Sometimes we publish our writings on digital platforms. And all of that can be quite overwhelming for a lot of young writers. But that becomes much more comfortable when you identify your style. You know what you're going to write and how you're going to write. It is still going to be a lot of hard work, but at least you get a good sense and good direction to where you are going. And that's why I think it's the book itself, The Sense of Style, is in itself quite a hard work. You will be exposed to all kinds of writings. You'll be exposed to certain dissections which probably you won't like at certain times. There'll be certain explanations you would want to skip. But if you persist and you finish this book and absorb as much as you can, you're going to derive a lot of value out of this book.